Hi guys, Ryan Fowler here with the Inner Game Group, Tim and Jordan, Inner Masculine Live, another gorgeous Sunday, broadcasting here from Costa Rica. And we are going to do an interesting one today. We covered the Cheryl Burke topic, where she was talking about how this gorgeous woman was just attracted to the most toxic men possible. We're going to go into a more general deep dive on how that applies generally with intersexual dynamics today. And it's we go deep into subconscious belief systems, all of that today. This is going to be a good one. And we talk about the red pill from time to time here. I would not consider us a red pill channel, but maybe red pill aware. And we've criticized certain aspects of the red pill. There's some good information in the red pill, and there's also some toxicity there with some of the presenters. But the one thing they don't do is cover everything we're going to cover today, which is actually very, very, very important and foundational and critical when it comes to intersexual dynamics. You need to know this stuff, and they never consider it. They never look at it, which is a shame. If they're really the red pill, they would cover all of this. So it's our job to fill in the gaps. We talk about our subconscious mind. You can do a Google search right now. What percent of our behavior is decided by our subconscious? It'll come up at 95%. So very critically important stuff. We're going to cover that today. It's going to be great. But first, Tim Costello and then Jordan, introduce yourselves. Welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm Tim Costello with clearthattrauma.com. We're doing exactly what Ryan is talking about, and that is getting back to your core beliefs and get that foundation built correctly so that you can find your authentic self and operate in the world like a champion.
All right. Jordan.
I'm Jordan Kurtz. Follow me on X, Jordan or J Kurtz Hypnosis. I post my musings on hypnosis, hypnotherapy, inner game, self-esteem, all that fun stuff. Show me some love over there on X.
All right. So all three of us are mindset coaches who use hypnosis as the most powerful tool we have. There's other tools available too that we might use here and there, but we are all available for sessions. But today it's not about that. It is about intersexual dynamics and what is going on. So we do have underneath the hood, underneath the iceberg, as it were. So you see the iceberg above water. Let's see what's going on with that huge chunk of iceberg underneath the water. Before we dive into that, just want to let you guys know that if you are looking to upgrade your subconscious, your internal world, we have resources available. So you can see right below my face, you see the school.com MindChrysalis -7138. MindChrysalis on the school.com platform, it's a community. You can message other people on there about subconscious topics, help each other, but it's way, 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 way more than that. We have a course for free that actually shows you how to hypnotize yourself, remove bad subconscious beliefs, put good ones in, and it's very effective. And we have much more than that on top of that, but that is free. It's a few hours of video. We do webinars. Twice a month we do webinars. So the next one is on Monday, the 20th, and we are going to do a deep dive into procrastination. Why do people procrastinate? If you struggle with that, you're going to get some tools to help you overcome your procrastination. And looks like Jordan disappeared.
Jordan, we've lost your camera.
So yeah, it's good to know. It's good to know
I'm
not. It's good to know I'm not the only one.
He
who
was
does
probably
that.
scratching something.
Yeah, Florida allergies are getting me.
Well, it's good to know I'm not the only one whose camera goes out, but I guess you turn that off. But
I
all right,
it off.
So we have an interesting clip today. Jordan, I'll let you set it up. There's actually a few parts it goes into. So yeah, MindChrysalis.com. Join the community. Get the webinars. Get the. We have an ebook on how our subconscious mind works, why it keeps you stuck. We have a course. It's all free. Interact with others. Find out this most important part of your life, because Carl Jung, the father of modern psychoanalysis said, until you make your unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And when you figure this stuff out, you're no longer stuck. You can go after what you want, do what you want, get what you want, have this self-belief, and just have a better life. So go ahead and set up this clip. We're going to look at a few parts of it. It's actually a pretty, it's like an hour and a half clip. So we'll just look at a few parts. So tell us about this lady and set it up for us, Gordon, if you could.
Yeah, well, I believe so. She works for Hinge. She is the lead relationship researcher for Hinge, and
yeah,
not aware, Hinge is right. And so, if you're not aware, Hinge is a dating app. Their big thing is now we can debate whether or not this is true, but their big thing is we want to push you to get off the app and find real relationships. Now, we can debate whether or not we think that's true, but
yeah,
beyond the scope.
That's open for debate. But hey, maybe, I don't know.
Right. But so she does talk a lot, but it does seem like she's very aware of a lot of relationship research about, and what I think is interesting is she starts to talk about this anxious, avoidant sort of attachment theory. And that's kind of what initially brought me into this as a topic for today, was this attachment theory stuff she's going to go into.
Yeah, attachment theory is real. It's real. I've experienced it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think we'll have a lot of good commentary on that. This is actually an interview with Diary of a CEO. I think we've done a couple of his videos in the past, so it'll be good.
Okay, so we're going to queue up at the 6-minute mark, and we're going to go into this section. Attachment theory, which one are you? Okay, and yeah, I do think attachment theory is a real thing. I think this is pretty valid. So let me share this and then we'll dive in. All right, here we go.
That?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so you know about attachment theory?
Loosely.
Okay, so I'll give you the scoop because I feel like it's really interesting. So attachment theory is a really great part of relationship research because it's something that has a deep background in research. So John Bowlby was a psychologist and he did the most interesting research on this. And this was in the 60s. So he basically would have moms bring their babies into a laboratory and the moms would place the baby down and leave the room and see how the baby reacted. And so some babies would start crying. The mom would come back in the room and pick it up, and the baby would keep crying. So the mom was there again, but the baby still felt upset, and that baby is anxiously attached. There was another type of baby where the mom would leave, the baby would come back, and as soon as the mom picked up the baby was soothed. So the baby was saying, I want to be with you, but when you're here, I know you're here for good. The third kind, the mom would leave the room, the baby wouldn't cry, but they knew from other signals that the baby was upset. And when the mom came back in the room, the baby would ignore it. And that baby is called avoidant attached. And so basically the point is that what we have in childhood often shows up in adult romantic relationships. And this is attachment theory. And
Stop
so
there for a second.
Attached people, they feel like,
yeah, I'll make a quick comment.
That was a really interesting comment she said about what happens in our childhood shows up in our adulthood. And 100% agree with that, because in our childhood, which we'll talk about, and we've talked about hundreds of times, is as those subconscious routines are established in childhood, once established, never ever alter until you physically or hypnotically go in there and change them, or in some other force, maybe EMDR or psychedelics or something like that.
Yeah.
But the key is once they're set in stone and they never change. So whatever happens in that childhood is definitely going to be repeated in adulthood.
Well, they can change, because I've changed my attachment styles for sure.
Well, I didn't say they don't change. I said they don't change by themselves.
Yeah, they don't change.
Yeah,
they
you
don't
have
change
to go
by
in
themselves.
and change them.
Yeah. And here's one thing: it's showing really how foundational attachment theory is, because she's talking about babies. And my belief personally is, these babies are 4 months old, 6 months old, 8, whatever. I don't think it's like genetics that determines the attachment style. I think by the time the baby's 4 or 5 months old, they do this experiment. The baby has already been conditioned by that mother and what the mother's been doing. There was Dr. Gabor.
I agree.
Yeah, Dr. Gabor Mate. We have a pretty screwed up society. I remember my mom saying, "Don't spoil a baby. Don't give the baby too much attention." Well, we know now that's actually, sorry, Mom, but terrible advice.
Yep.
Dr. Gabor Mate talks about how the Aboriginals carry the baby from childbirth, just first 6 months or whatever. The mothers just actually physically carry the babies everywhere. And these children grow up to be very confident and secure. Now, he also talks about there was this woman, and the doctor instructed her that when the baby cries, don't pick the baby up. And she said her maternal instinct was the baby's crying, pick the baby up. And it was extremely hard to do it. There's some regimen, some retarded, stupid regimen this idiot doctor had, which is only hold the baby every hour and a half and no more than that. And honestly, these very early things, I've done hypnosis sessions. I've done like 3 where I took a person back to their womb. One guy had a cord wrapped around his neck. The other was born with a club foot. The birth was very painful. Another was born prematurely. Their subconscious mind was able to even go back to their births.
Yep.
So it's all recorded. And this very foundational stuff of how often their mother holds them, loves them, or doesn't, ignores the baby while the baby's crying in the crib. The baby learns it doesn't matter if I cry, I'm not wanted, so I'm just going to stop crying. That's the avoidant attachment style. This is extremely foundational because it's learned as a baby, with that initial relationship. Anyone else have comments?
Yeah, I want to reiterate your point of it being like it's the attachment style is based on just that 4 to 5 months of being with the mom. Like the baby is immediate. People might even say, even like you said, even in the womb, it's learning how the subconscious programs are so quickly being ingrained. And so the way she presents the information kind of makes it seem like it's random. Like some babies do this, some babies do this. And maybe she does know the reasons why, but she just didn't explain it in the video. But that's what I would have liked for her to maybe go into. Maybe it's not relevant to dating, but
and that's not how scientists are, because they look at the data,
Right.
They don't extrapolate on things or not. What's that?
Yeah, she kind of just presents it as this is the way that it is. Some people are like this, and it's just arbitrary. It's like, well, no, it's parents have almost unilateral influence over what type you are.
Yeah.
And
I wish these experiments would have given backgrounds on the parent and how each child was nurtured. Right. I wish we would have that data. However, like I said, Dr. Gabor Mate has done some work on this, and so we have additional information in addition to this experiment. But go ahead. Anything else?
But I mean, since most people watching this, you're probably not a baby, you're probably an adult looking at oh, which one am I? And so it's like, this is another window into your subconscious. If any of those 3 resonate with how you interact with other people, then you'll have a better understanding of, your subconscious mind.
Very true. And attachment styles, the things we're talking about now, not only very powerfully affect our relationships, intersexual relationships, especially today, but it also affects who we're attracted to and what type of people we're attracted to. And she's going to talk a little later about some people seeming boring to you, some people seem more enticing. That's actually related to attachment theory, because one person, one woman or man will find very attractive and exciting. Another person will find boring, but that person found boring will be attractive to, say, someone with a secure attachment style. We'll go into that later. This is really interesting stuff. Go
One
ahead.
more thing to add. I think there's a fourth category where the mom is in the same room, but not like she puts the baby down to do like play or something, but she's in the same room and the baby either still cries or doesn't cry because they know the mom is present, but just not physically like in contact with them. So I think there's
Okay,
another option as well.
Now, I watched this. I watched most of this about a week and a half ago. You watched it more recently. So we'll just play it until you think this is more fresh in your mind, Jordan. We'll play it until you tell us to skip to the next part. Since
Yeah, you could. Well, I could tell you now. You can move to like 11:25.
Okay, cool. All right. Oh yeah. Okay. Burp. Okay, here we go.
On that.
Right. Yeah. Let me go more into avoidant attachment. And I would say for anyone listening who's feeling really stuck, going deep on attachment theory is one of the number one things that you can do to really understand yourself, understand your past patterns, understand who you've been attracted to and why it isn't working. And so there's a lot of great relationship science out there, but this might be the number one thing that I want people to take away. Let me describe what happens when you're avoidant attached. So first, there's a trigger. So the trigger might be that you go out with somebody on Saturday night, you have a great night, they sleep over, and Sunday morning you wake up and you're just ready to do your thing, but they're still there. So you feel triggered by the fact that they're still at your house. Then you do something called deactivating strategies. So these are thoughts or feelings that push them away. So it might be like, oh my God, it's 10 o'clock and she hasn't brushed her teeth yet. When is she going to leave? Oh, is she going to be here forever? And then you start thinking about flaws in that person. Well, this is wrong with her, or that is wrong with her. And there's all these things that are subtly pushing her away from you. And then you do a protest behavior, which is sort of snapping or just saying something like, okay, I called your Uber. And I feel like many of us have had that situation where you think things are going well with somebody, and then all of a sudden they're like, the Uber's here. And you're like, oh, so you're kicking me out. And it's so interesting because it's like the other person has no idea what's going on for you. They feel like you just had a great date and they're like, great, let's go out to the diner for breakfast. And instead that person is like, I will never have my life back. You are taking over my world. You're really blushing.
I felt both of these, by the way, anxious and avoidant. But I had some trauma regarding this that didn't resurface until I started dating again. Had about 6 bad subconscious programs tied to this. Cleared this 5 years ago. Not an issue at all anymore. You can actually really fix this at a core level. We'll keep going.
And
Yeah, I can
an avoidant attachment.
Go ahead.
So we've talked about this before. It's this pattern of trigger and response, right?
Yeah.
The trigger is seems like she's not going to leave. I can't get my life and then the response
Based on subconscious beliefs.
Exactly, and that is, and we talk
you
about
have formed in childhood. Yeah.
Cognitive behavioral therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy is kind of what she's describing. Is like after you're triggered, here's how you handle it, which I suppose can work. But what if you just weren't triggered to begin with? And that's where we come in.
So let's dig a little deeper into Ryan. When you would discover that after starting dating, what were the core beliefs that needed to be repaired specifically? Not your particular case, but what were those particular subconscious traumas?
Well, I'll tell you for my case. I felt women were dangerous, untrustworthy, would hurt me, backstab me. What I later learned is I have the power to protect myself and that there are good women out there. And both of those are true.
So of the 5 subconscious traumas that we talk about a lot,
feelings of unworthiness, not good enough.
Yeah, I think I heard unsafe.
I can't get the woman I want. That was all there too. And that's going to lead to both avoidant and angry. But also the avoidant part is never having an emotional connection with my mom. And if you don't have an emotional connection with your mom, you won't have it with a woman now.
Right. Key for our listeners is I want to ensure that we're just not shooting fish in a barrel. These are very directed affectations in your life. So Ryan, and I'll choose a little one there. He felt unsafe around women because he felt women were dangerous. Well, we can find out
Based
in
on my
Guide to the
upbringing.
5 opportunity that you can now identify that emotional trauma and get in there and clear it out. And like Ryan said, clear those 5 or 6 traumas, boom, gone, right? They never come back once you rip them out and reprogram them. And that's key for our audience to understand. This lady here doing a great job of describing what's observed. And that's the top of the iceberg that you see. But the part of the iceberg down below, which you'll run your ship against, is the stuff you can't visibly see or observe. And that's that subconscious feelings that you've got, those emotions that are triggered by different things that happen in life. So that's key. She's doing a really great job identifying them. And we're going to go one step further to identify what causes them.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say before we go in, the limitation of conventional therapists is there are actually 2 main parts of our brain we have to work on to fix our issues. And they only work on one of them. They work with the prefrontal cortex, which involves the executive function, the cognitive function, logic, reason, all of that are our consciousness that we're very aware of, our thoughts that come into our brain, and then we can deal with that. But there's another part of the brain that's very important, which is our limbic system. Our fight or flight response is there. Our emotions come from there. That's where the initial trigger is based on these subconscious beliefs. It's the source of your emotions. So what they do is they say, hey, when you're getting triggered, use your cognitive brain to think this or say this to manage it once it comes up. But they're not going into the limbic brain and actually fixing the limbic. Now, the limbic and the prefrontal cortex are connected. You can, to a limited degree, partially fix your limbic over a long period of time. Some people can. Over a long period of time, partially fix it with consistent cognitive thought, new experiences, etc. But it takes a long time. And from what I've seen, it's not a full fix. It's a partial fix at best. At best, partial fix over a long period of time. If you go in and directly work on this limbic part of the brain, which is what we do, you can fix it rapidly, oftentimes in as little as 1 session. So that's what, work on both parts of the brain. And the limbic is very much tied into the subconscious, very, very much tied into it. Anything to add?
Yeah, I can add in. So I've also read a while back, I read the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and there's some criticism of that. But one of the things he gets into is similar to what she's talking about now. It all comes from these subconscious programs. The book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus talks a lot about how men have certain programs from childhood that women have to be aware of so that they can make the man feel a certain way, and vice versa. And that's what these relationship coaches, if you notice that there's a pattern here of subconscious programs. She's talking about attachment theory. That's subconscious programs. And so I noticed that they go, so it's like, for me, the question is, if you can just manipulate the subconscious programs, I think you can create. Oh, Ryan, looks like you dropped.
We just lost Ryan.
It's our show now, Tim. We're taking over.
Take it away.
And so I'm sure I'll be back. But the point was, it's like you have, it all boils down to the subconscious at some level. And so I think the best relationships are where you can basically create a safe, basically heal your subconscious mind, and then you won't have to use a lot of these, I'm anxious attached, therefore I have to, these problems almost don't come up when you don't trigger each other. You know what I'm saying?
Correct. So let's have I also read that book. It was years ago that it came out. Mm-hmm. And what I know now, of course, back then it was a really good book because I didn't know what I know now. And I was, like everybody else, very much into the cognitive effort of changing things, right? Dealing, adapting, coping, etc. And that's exactly what that book is all about. So, Ryan might not be back to over an hour. We'll find out here in a second. It's important to realize that what we know now is that, again, just like Logan Ury is doing with the Diary of a CEO guy, she is explaining the observational things that are happening and going into a little bit of the behavior which generates those particular observations. What she's not going to is being able to understand why those things are happening to a root cause level.
Yeah.
Can we restart later in the afternoon? Ryan wants to re-go. If it's going to be more than another minute or two, we'll kick this out. We'll come back later. Yeah, we can't play the clip, so
I think I can actually.
can anybody of us present?
I have a present button. Let me try.
Me too, but
It's up against.
wants me to upload a file.
You know, he said it's up. Yeah, I think he meant his internet's up again.
Oh, okay.
We'll give him another few minutes.
All he has to do is refresh his browser and he'll be right back in.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's what I've observed now, knowing what I know now about the subconscious, is many, many books there. Even Gabor Mate, as genius as he is, still hasn't gotten to the root cause level. He's all around it, observes it, understands it, teaches people how to cope with it, but still doesn't know how to change it.
And it makes sense if you've never experienced the tool. Like, it's very obvious when you've gone through a hypnosis session that this is the tool you use. But if you don't even know that tool exists, then
Correct.
you might not connect those dots. You might just think that it's unchangeable.
That is correct.
And that's, you know, and this is part of the reason we have the show, is to explain that this tool exists, so that people, because you have to, like, every time I encounter these problems now, right, it goes through that filter of how can I solve it with a subconscious tool. Like, I have this pinned tweet in my X. It's subconscious problems require subconscious tools or something.
I'm back.
Hey,
Oh, he's back.
My internet totally crapped out. So we're live. We're live, baby.
We never dropped, I don't think. We kept going.
No, we
Oh,
kept
it looks
on
like
rolling.
it's
We were
still
talking
live.
amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
It's still live.
Yeah.
All right. Rock and roll. Cool.
Yeah, if you wanna reshare, I can give you a new timestamp. I've got
Share screen. Love expert. Do you want to listen more at this time?
we can go a little further ahead. Go to 1650.
All right. You guys are you're my backup. You got my back. I appreciate it.
We got
All
you.
right,
We got you.
You got me. All right, here we go.
Being really clear and not assuming that somebody is going to read your mind, and looking for the positives. And you can work on self-regulation. So for example, when an avoidant or anxious person is triggered, they go into this thing called the danger zone, which is basically like, I need to get away from you as soon as possible, or I need to reconnect with you as soon as possible. And if you don't want to get into the danger zone and you want to stay in the comfort zone, then you can learn how to self-regulate. So
that is straight up subconscious trauma. And she's doing exactly what we said. Once you get triggered, you can use your conscious mind, your prefrontal cortex, to self-regulate and manage it. What if you just get rid of it? That's what they don't know. That's why we have a show.
They're coping. They're coping. They're managing. They're not changing.
And it's partially effective. It depends on the person. Some people, it can be, if their trauma is milder, it can be completely or almost completely effective. They just have to manage it each time. But
the question would be,
so you don't even have to manage it.
Yeah, why would you want to manage it? Why not get rid of that flat tire, or that tire that keeps emptying out of air?
Yeah, it's like managing it's like managing a bad romantic partner who keeps on pulling crap, and you have to constantly like put this person in their place, or and then if you do it, they behave, but you got to have like really strong boundaries and constantly assert yourself. It's like, all right, that works, but is it ideal?
Well,
anyway,
let's take the flat tire theory. I have a tire and I got a screw in it, and it's a very slow leak, right? I don't have time to get to the tire shop to fix it. I can't fix it myself because I don't have the gear. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is wake up every morning and take out my little air pump and pump up my tire so I can get to work. I'm going to put it in my trunk because it was battery operated with the 12 volts in my car, and I have to pump it up again. So maybe I'll do that for 4 or 5 days until I can get in there, do a root cause analysis, get to the tire shop, have them fix the tire so it doesn't leak anymore and then continue on well. It's the same thing in relationships. You're going to manage it and tolerate it for as long as you can stand that you can manage it or tolerate it.
Or just
sometimes
fix it.
You can't fix it.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
That's one thing.
You have anything, Jordan?
I just like that's the whole root. That's the whole point of the show, right? It is understanding that if you think about problems in terms of let's figure out why and solve it versus let's manage symptoms, but you have to the framework of how you approach all of these issues has to be subconscious. That's why we have a show.
100%. All right, and this is what everyone's missing, and that's why we go into this. This is need to know core material here. Keep going.
The other thing, which I personally feel like is easier and was my strategy, is finding a secure partner. And so that's a great way to get out of the anxious avoidant loop. So with me, right, I was this anxiously attached dater, chasing after this Burning Man guy, had all these bad habits. And then when I started dating my husband, I distinctly remember this moment where I was walking down the street of San Francisco and I was flooded. I was so angry. I would just get so upset and I was typing away at my
This will only work for some anxious avoidant people. Others, having a secure partner, they still get freaked out, so we'll keep going.
phone. I couldn't see anything else. I truly was in this flooded cortisol rush moment. And I was telling him all the things he had done wrong. And I knew the pattern, which was then he would fight with me. We'd get into this fight. It would blow up. And then eventually we'd make up. But he didn't do that pattern. He wrote back and said, "It sounds like you're upset. We should talk about this in person." And it was this crazy moment where I was like, wait, we're not going to do the thing that I always do with everyone. We're going to do this different thing. And it just dissipated all of the anger because he was acknowledging that I was upset, but he was suggesting a healthier plan. And I don't think that it's unrelated to the fact that his mom is a therapist.
Okay, so this is actually really awesome what the guy did, but I'll point out something else. And if you guys want to comment, that's cool too. She's lucky that she found a guy who was willing to put up with her crap, who was secure attachment. Because a lot of secure attachment people, if they get with an anxious person or avoidant, they're having to deal with a certain amount of drama. And a lot of the secure attachment style people will say, I don't want this drama. And then they find someone else who has a secure attachment style instead of dealing with this. So one of the things about having this anxious or anxious avoidant or combination, or there's something called disorganized, which is combination of the two, is you're less likely to get someone who has a secure attachment style to stay with you. So regardless, this is great at work. It's working out for her. Awesome. But really go in and fix your trauma. And it's much, much more likely that you're not only going to find someone secure, but also be attracted to them. Because a lot of people are just attracted to toxicity and drama and will never get with this secure guy. Do you guys have anything to add there?
Oh, Tim, I can't.
If not,
Can't
we'll
hear
keep
you, Tim.
going.
Tim, I can't hear you.
Sorry, yeah, I marked myself there a second. Anyway, the reason that this is so significant is earlier in this video that she's in, she talks about having met the new guy, the secure guy. And as she was talking to her dating coach or therapist or whoever that she was talking to, they really focused on how that other person made you feel, right? And the toxic person, and she talks about Skinner's pigeons, which I studied in college, they talk about how we get fed rewards, and she wouldn't get the reward, so she was always panicking and seeking the reward from that other toxic person, right? The bad boy, if you will. I think she called him an F boy or something like that.
Yeah.
But she met this guy at school and work, and the interesting thing is she observed about herself was the way that he made her feel internally, which was interesting. So she's a behavioral therapist, scientist type of person, has a degree from Harvard of all places in psychology. So she understands these things, but herself was suffering from them because you're your own worst patient, of course. So now she's able to look outside herself, get some other advice, and now she's attracted to this guy even though she's still a bit toxic. So it's important that we fix core beliefs in people, period, and they will be attracted to that person that makes them feel secure and whole.
Yeah, and everything this woman is saying is useful. I think normal therapy can be useful, CBT or any of the related, cognitive behavioral therapy, any of the related techniques. It's just I don't see it as a complete picture at all. In fact, I see it as being, for many patients, being horribly incomplete and never either not working. For many people, it doesn't work. Or it works very slowly over time and only partially, which is still helpful. It still can be massively helpful. I went through that system. I had 100 sessions over 15 years. Did it help? Yeah, absolutely. It just took a long time, and there's a big chunk it just never fixed. That then when I found the methods I use, fixed the rest of it. And just so much more massively powerful. So, but a lot of good information. She's a very smart lady, and yeah, this stuff is helping her to a point. The conventional techniques, good for her. Keep going.
So
I'll add one thing real quick.
Sure.
So she's talking about, like, she's a relationship coach. My criticism is slightly like, how do you know that your part? She found someone sort of by chance that can counter the subconscious programs that she has. So my only thought would be, I don't know. I can't think of a really good strategy for like, she didn't know that her boyfriend was going to react the way he did. And so if you are that way, you're kind of shooting in the dark a little bit.
She got lucky.
Yep.
Right, exactly.
She got lucky because honestly, it's a minority of people like that. It's a minority. She got lucky.
Yeah, and she knows it. But a better thing is, like, this is why we talk about dating a lot on this channel, is because it's so relevant. Because I think dating reveals so much of what's in your subconscious mind, uniquely other
man, dating triggers subconscious trauma like nothing else. If you got it, a lot of it will be triggered in dating powerfully.
Right. And the best thing you can do for yourself is clear your. I would argue, if I was working for Hinge, I would say the best thing you can do is clear your subconscious trauma to find another partner, because that will eliminate all of these coping techniques. And, like, we need to talk all of these things that dating coaches talk about to handle relationships when things go wrong. So a lot of those go out the window. Or is it out the door, out the window?
Out the door, window, out the window.
Either one.
When you just clear your subconscious problems,
you clear your trauma.
You don't have a lot of these issues to begin with.
Exactly. And the tendency, and again, not a hard and fast rule by any means, but the tendency is a person who's emotionally healthy gets with another person who's emotionally healthy. Now, again, not a hard and fast rule, but that is the tendency. And, for me now, I started dating again around age 44, 45. I'm 49. I was MGTOW out for a while, but also I was dating before I cured my trauma, but I was dating with trauma. And that was just, just never worked out with my trauma. And how it is now is I'm actually, dating a girl. She's still in Mexico. I'm flying her out to Costa Rica. But we're going to keep dating when I get back to Mexico in January. And how it is for me is when I meet people who start pulling toxic bullcrap, I just get them out of there. And the anxious attachment style, the avoidant, they'll do stuff that's kind of toxic, So then I find someone else who's very secure, emotionally healthy, and there's an attraction there. And that is typically what happens. Is an emotionally healthy person is attracted to another emotionally healthy person. You look at, like, all these attractive women who are attracted to the bad boy, really it's their trauma attracted to his trauma, because a lot of not all, there's very attractive women who are emotionally healthy, but many very attractive women are trying to compensate for not feeling good enough. And so they spend an inordinate amount of time becoming attractive to compensate for what's in them. And then that trauma is a match for the bad boy, so to speak. Again, I'm speaking in big generalities here, so you're going to find many exceptions to this rule. This lady is talking about an exception to the rule. She had, her trauma, but found a good guy who was emotionally healthy. So we're speaking in generalities, but from my own experience, I'm now ongoing dating someone who has a secure attachment style, and that's my style, and that's who I'm attractive to now. And listen, in Mexico, it's like your market value as a guy on the dating marketplace goes up, very, very noticeably. So I could, get many, attractive women in that market, but I'm settling for the one who's most secure, who's also attractive. And that is the general tendency. If you want to get into a healthy relationship, the first step is become healthy yourself.
So you guys are talking generally about the dating world.
You're in the marriage world.
Yeah, this is a bigger topic because she doesn't say the word marriage as much as she says the word, or dating, as much as she says the word relationship, right? It is the relationship securely that you're after in the long run. I have been dating for the last 40 something years. It's just been the same person, right? We still have to work on the relationship. We still have to have a relationship, or it wouldn't work that long. So it is super important that not only do we take it in dating, but then we take it into marriage, but we also take it into the business place, right? When we're working with people, salespeople, marketing, whatever the case may be out there in that world, you will run into all different kinds of people, and you're going to have to develop a relationship. You will be a better leader and successful person when you have a solid frame with which to build on top of. And that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Core beliefs deep down that affect every single thing in our life, including our health.
Yeah. And I will say, Tim, I've noticed this in my own life, that our attachment styles this lady is talking about, it actually affects business relationships.
Yep.
It's somewhat different, but I have seen good businessmen, men and women, just, very men and women, blow up business relationships because of their internal subconscious trauma. They're attached. I've seen them burn bridges. I've seen them shoot themselves in the foot and just create all sorts of business issues for them that if they had a good attachment style, more emotionally healthy, would have been avoided,
100%.
And it's their trauma.
Relationship with humans.
Yeah, it's their trauma. All right, so moving on. Very good point, Tim.
Your person made me so much.
Move on to what part?
Move to like 20 minutes even.
Okay.
Guy who's trying to tell you about a cool bookstore in Seattle. Like, why can't you see that as somebody that's interested in you and putting in effort? But to her, in the anxious avoidant loop, what she wanted was someone who was unavailable. And that's what's so hard. I feel like there's all these lovely, securely attached people out there that are probably like, oh, I'm a dud. Nobody wants me. It's like, baby, somebody wants you. They just haven't figured it out yet. And so some of the work that I do is train people to look for secure partners. And so things like, are they consistent? Do they not play games? Are they clear about their interest in you? And so we actually have to understand that securely attached partners are the heroes of the relationship world. And they're great to be in relationships with. They have healthier relationships. And you have to train yourself to go for that and to break out of this anxious avoidant loop.
So now she's talking about these attachment styles actually affect who we are attracted to. Again, not all very attractive women are emotionally damaged. I know some who are emotionally healthy who are super, super good looking, but the majority of people don't have a healthy attachment style, and especially people who spend an inordinate amount of time on their physical attraction tend to be doing that for a reason. And it's tied to their trauma, and it's also tied to who they are attracted to. And they're passing over the good ones and going for the drama or someone emotionally unavailable, etc., because of their trauma. It affects who you're attracted to. So next time you're watching some red pill guru talking about hot women being attracted to the bad boy, this is what's underneath the iceberg that they are not acknowledging. And it's too bad because there's absolute mountain. There's an absolute mountain of data backing this up.
I could probably hazard a guess
I
as to
can-
which attachment style ends up in marriage the
Real quick,
most
right.
and stays in marriage. But I'm also
So
quite
fast.
curious about
Right.
which attachment style is
I'll
most
pause it.
likely to get the most attention.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, you're good. So the
That was fast.
the
Yeah,
other
it's weird. I
thing-
had it on normal play. He's just talking fast.
Oh, good. So I noticed I've said before, self-esteem tends to seek its own level. I think that's an objectivist
Yeah.
talking point. But those people who are securely attached tend to pull each other out of the dating market because they
Yeah.
find each other and they pull that out of the pool of single people, if you will. And so
They
what
get
you end
married
up
and
being-
stay married.
Right. And so what you're left with if you're single sometimes is a larger pool of people who are not securely attached. And so that's why perhaps dating can be difficult, is because if you're already single, like you kind of have to almost get lucky to find a securely attached person who is also single, because that's like I'm thinking like as a chemical reaction. It's like it's unstable for that securely attached person to be single for long. They're going to get pulled out by another securely, because like they're attracted to each other. And that's kind of, and so, but thinking logically, then if you then make yourself a securely attached person through hypnosis, through, and understanding like what that is, you're more likely to pull yourself, like someone else who's securely attached will come into your life and find you. That's kind of how it
my
works.
story right now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Years ago, guys in my pool of world would always come up with these lists of things they wanted in a woman. And it was things that she looked like or things that she did for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I often told them, a couple of them, look, you fix you and the right one will appear. And it won't look like the one you thought you were looking for. And they won't do the things you thought they were going to do for you. But all of a sudden, you'll find that person when you fix yourself. So if you're looking for all those things, make sure you do those things in yourself first, because apparently that's what you're attracted to, unless you're looking for a maid. And let me tell you, a maid is a whole lot cheaper than a wife. So get a maid.
Yeah.
Right. So it's important to realize, and I know we always focus on the beautiful woman, the whatever. All of that fades so quickly in a toxic relationship or with age. Either one of them, all that's going to fade. That gorgeous woman that you thought was breathtakingly beautiful, you get hooked up, she becomes toxic with you. You separate, she's the ugliest person on the earth. So, and you to her as well. So it's really key that we focus on ourselves, fixing those core beliefs deep down that allows us to love ourselves unconditionally and need zero, if any, and we all need a little bit, but a little bit of external validation. If you are internally validated, all of a sudden you'll stand above the crowd and that person that you're looking for will appear.
Yeah. Now, I will say that in addition to becoming, psychologically healthy, I think on the dating market, we should learn the skill of interacting with people of the opposite sex. I think
bet.
we should make efforts to make ourselves more attractive. And I might differ with you on this, Tim. If I do, if I don't, it's okay either way. But I do think men are biologically wired to want attractive women. And so I think to a point, we just have to acknowledge that's part of who we are as guys. But again, it varies from guy to guy. So, honestly, for me, if a girl's like a 7 or an 8, it's fine. I don't need
Let
a
me
9 or a
agree
10.
with you. See, we use those numbers.
Yeah.
So somebody showed me a picture of a girl that he was tremendously attracted to. And I thought, whatever.
You're like, yeah.
I mean, it wasn't my type that I would be attracted to, but she wasn't ugly. She just wasn't what I was looking for, right? When I was growing up, I thought I'd marry a Playboy bunny, because that was the big thing in the 70s and the 80s, was these gorgeous women in these bathing suits with the ears. That was the epitome of beauty. Well, I didn't marry a Playboy bunny. I'm glad, because those girls, quite frankly, are pretty screwed up as
Super high
time
maintenance.
plays on. The high maintenance is because they're toxic. So
Yeah.
my point is, Ryan, you're attracted to a different looking woman than I am. Same with Jordan, and vice versa. So all of them are beautiful, because what matters is 30 years down the road that they're still a beautiful person.
True, 100%. Yeah. So, our show is about the subconscious. That is the most important element, but these other elements are still important. So, which
No
is
question. And
kind of the
again,
point I'm making.
I always used to say, nobody's as good looking to Mr. Frog as Mrs. Frog.
Haha. Yeah. Also, when guys get married, they think their wives are more attractive than everyone else thinks the
Absolutely.
woman's attractive. So, there's data on that. So,
Or they don't care.
Jordan, is there more on this thread, or should we move forward to the next?
I wanted to add real quick. So she said something at the very beginning there was interesting, which was the women who are anxiously attached don't find the guys who are securely attached interesting, because they don't trigger those same emotional kind of highs. And I think it's
people can get addicted to negative emotions, and positive or negative, you can get addicted to it. And the secure guy isn't triggering their anxiousness or
and that might be a problem. I think the best guys who are securely attached but can still sort of playfully play with a girl's emotions a little bit, but not in a necessarily a toxic way. I think girls like the emotional highs that guys can give them, but you can't be boring, but you also, there's a difference between being boring and just completely toxic. And the guys that figure out that perfect middle ground is they can play with the woman's emotions a little bit, but also still be securely attached and not, I think they call it like the lovable asshole almost a way. He's playful. He's not a dick, but he's playful. And so that's, I think for most guys, that's really the sweet spot of where you want to be.
It's very complex, and I think you're right on the money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really, it's just kind of a little bit of teasing, right?
Exactly,
you tease the girl, you get her going a little bit,
39, Ryan, 39.26.
One thing about women is they love to play detective and figure out what a guy's about. And so if you make yourself harder to figure out, they freaking, that is like catnip for them. It's a cat with catnip. I mean,
catnip.
They're going to chase you until they can figure you out. So part of game is being harder to figure out, and being a little bit unpredictable. So, so like I said, hey, fix your subconscious, because that's going to lead to healthy long-term relationships, and it's going to lead you to attracting someone else who's emotionally healthy. But learn a little game, hit the gym, get into shape, you're going to get a higher quality woman, make more money, get a good career, do all of that. And that's why, hey, the red pill, there's certain aspects of the red pill that are true, that are very helpful. So, and I'm just taking all truth wherever I can get it. But I'm saying, hey guys, don't just get stuck in one lane here, because there's other stuff that matters. So we're not all just about subconscious. This other stuff, game, all of that, it all matters too. Put it all together, but don't ignore this extremely important aspect of who we are as humans. Don't ignore it. If you ignore it at your peril. You absolutely do.
For sure. Let's talk about this red pill thing. We mention red pill now and again, and I think that the red pill community has completely absconded with this term red pill. Like they're the only ones that can use it. And all the red pill means is factual truth. Now,
the red pill is saying, look at the stuff others don't look at.
Right. They've taken that factual truth.
Good for them.
And they've embellished it beyond recognition. The reality is, remember the blue pill? Just be dumb, fall asleep. The red pill is wake up, be alive, and have truth in your life. But you have to sort out the truth, because not everything everybody says is truthful or ridden with fact. Got to go with the science, the data, and not get buried down in toxic things.
Yeah, and in my opinion, the red pill community, to unfortunately, to a pretty significant degree, has been corrupted by the chase for likes and subscribes.
Yep.
You know, they've been corrupted by that. They've been putting out more. Again, not everyone. There's some that have great information out there, but it's more about getting likes and clicks and subscribes, putting out salacious material.
Correct.
And that has skewed what should otherwise be objective truth. There's a lot of objective, really good facts and truth in the red pill. It's incomplete.
On the
It's
money.
incomplete because they don't look under the iceberg like we do, but there are certain good, and it's been corrupted by the YouTube algorithm chasing likes, subscribes. You know, it gets more views, and so, but you're not sticking to objective fact that way. So it is what it is, you know. Just
On
shout
the
out
money,
to
Ryan, on the
everyone.
money.
Our comments been picking up. Shout out to Skinny to Swole, P Dubs. We see you guys.
What's up,
Matthew
P-Dubs?
R. Thank you for the compliment. Go ahead.
Thanks,
I would
Matthew.
say that it's like the subconscious model, I think, is more complete. I think that the natural next step, if you're in red pill, is looking at it from a subconscious model, because all these things that, like, so here's my theory, is that when people say, well, not all women are like that, what they're really getting at, but perhaps they don't have the language to describe, is that people's subconscious minds are different. And so there will be general strategies that work on most women, but there will also be things that don't work. And I think that's, you have to, like, what I like to say is, it's that I'm like the objectivist, right? Like, if there's no such thing as a contradiction. If you find a contradiction, your premise is wrong. And I think the best premise you can look at all of this stuff is the subconscious program model, which is, and that helps you really understand how to interact with anyone you're interacting with. When you look at, because like we've all interacted with difficult people before, but like I can't, working with so many different clients, it's really hard for me to get really frustrated with certain people now, because I just see them as a series of subconscious programs acting a certain way. It's like, so I can't, it's like seeing the code, the matrix. It's like, why would I get angry at someone for being a little, I don't know, rude to me or uptight, when it's like, all I see literally is just the subconscious program running in their mind. It's like, well,
Yeah.
if I was them, I'd probably be acting the same way as well. And so it's like,
100%.
Absolutely.
it's difficult for me to get, emotionally irritated a lot of the time, because like, well, I get it. I understand you are the way you are because of your subconscious programs.
Because of trauma. Most people are not trying to be evil or bad. They're reacting to their subconscious trauma. They're trying to cope
Absolutely.
with the pain that's in them, and they do different things to cope. You can become an alcoholic and just numb crap out. You can become a narcissist who projects this perfect image to the world, and you do everything you can to divorce yourself from these great insecurities in you. And you find out that, hey, I feel worthless and like I don't matter. But look, if I can emotionally manipulate this person, that means I have power. That makes you feel better. That's all response to trauma in you. You clear that trauma, you don't need to do any of that maladaptive stuff that's hurtful to others. You just don't. You just go out, kick ass, live a good life, So 100% agree with you on that, Jordan. So
If you want to finish it out, I have one more timestamp we can look at.
Yeah, and just shout out to everyone. P Dubs, loyal follower, Money Muscles Game Frame. John MLD. I think that is a fantastic recipe. It's not the only thing. Money Muscles Game Frame, fix your inner world. Let's say that. But those are all important. In the intersexual marketplace, looking for a good girl. Hey, and the thing the Red Book gets right is, men and women are a certain way as far as our instinct, our physiological makeup, our neurochemistry, evolutionary psychology, all of that. There's some things that are just these really massive tendencies to go after certain things. It is what it is. So you might as well find out what that is and use it to your advantage. So that's the red pill. Unfortunately, they ignore subconscious for the most part. But this Money Muscles Game Frame, yeah, it's very helpful overall. Be fit, have a good career, understand how to navigate social dynamics, and frame is enforcing boundaries, and in a relationship, the man's the leader. You can have a woman a leader in a relationship, but it's not how women are wired. You can do it, but it's probably going to end in disaster. You know, it's probably going to lead to divorce.
Let's add a
whatever.
little caveat to that. It's not how the correctly wired and programmed woman acts.
Yeah. Yeah. Some women want
toxic
some women
ones,
want to be
absolutely.
dominant for safety. Some women
Yeah,
are like,
absolutely.
I want a weak man so he'll never threaten me.
That's right.
But let me tell you, that is a screwed up dynamic. It that will only happen if there's trauma with that woman, and trauma with the guy that she pair bonds with, and it sucks. It's a crappy relationship. It really is. Shout out to Evan. Shout out to everyone. Yes, Kenny DeSwole, another comment. Something we said he've noticed.
Do you want to end the show, or do you want to go on the?
Let's do this one more thing you say, and
Okay.
Where's that on the timestamp?
39:20 seconds.
Okay,
39
cool.
minutes 20 seconds.
Oh yeah, okay. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, that's good.
Dang close.
This is what to do as an anxious.
Talked about how your girlfriend will want attention from you. You don't give it to her. She tries and then she shuts down. So that's exactly what we see with anxious attached people. So let me give you the equivalent of what I gave you for the avoidant attached. So an anxious attached person will have a trigger. So for example, the trigger would be, I asked somebody if we're hanging out tomorrow and they didn't get back to me. So after the trigger happens, they go into activating strategy. So those are thoughts or feelings where you start spiraling and you're thinking, they're not interested in me. They met somebody else. There's something else going on. They don't like me anymore. And you really are getting into that danger zone of coming up with all these reasons why that person is going to abandon you, which is your biggest fear.
All subconscious, and now you're coping. And
Now you're
screws up
ruminating.
You're coping with your trauma, and it's screwing up the relationship. This is exactly what we've been talking about. Fix the trauma, then you won't do any of this.
So then
Trigger
you do
response.
protest behavior.
What's that?
I said trigger response. That's all.
Exactly,
That's always
100%.
what she's
So the
talking
protest behavior.
People are just trying to protect their own emotional well-being, and they can do some very, very, messed up stuff in an attempt to do, to cope.
And trust me, I've been there, is sending 10 texts in a row. Maybe it's sending 20 texts in a row, leaving an angry voicemail. So really acting out. And then afterwards, you decide to punish the person and you shut down. So you send all those texts, you send threats, and then you turn off your phone. And so you're really in this tough place where you've tried to reconnect with somebody and then you've gotten so upset that they're abandoning you that you actually pull back. And so that sort of describes what might be happening with your girlfriend sometimes, where she doesn't get what she wants. It's very frustrating for her. And then she shuts down. So the strategies for the anxious attached, I talked about them before, but I'll say them again. So some of those strategies for,
and that's a person who doesn't know how to give themselves what they need. And that's what we teach. You can give yourself the validation you need so that you don't lose your shit when someone else doesn't give it to you. And again, all subconscious.
Anxious attached are distracting yourself. So going for a walk, doing something else where you're not on your phone, where you're basically not in a mode where you're waiting for somebody to text back. I feel like those are the longest minutes of my life, are waiting for that text back from that person. The second thing is to text somebody else, I wish I could say this to him. And the third thing is this disconfirming evidence. It's almost like inside your head is a judge and a jury, and you're presenting to the judge, here's all the reasons why it could not be true. So then you're presenting to the judge and the jury, here's all the reasons why that person might not be texting me back. And so you're really doing everything that you can to not get into that protest behavior moment, because once you're flooded, once you're in that protest behavior moment, it's really hard to recover. And so it's both people are working on having different reactions to triggers. And honestly,
it's a Harvard educated psychologist, has a doctorate, and this is the best she has. Managed the trauma, has no idea how to fix it. Comment by Skinny.
And these are probably pretty decent strategies. They're probably not useless, but again,
they help, but you have to constantly use them. And
she's not a doctor. She's not a doctor, by the way. She only has a bachelor's degree.
Oh, bachelor's. Okay. Bachelor's from Harvard. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So
this is the same problem. They can correctly diagnose the problem, but they can't they don't understand the solution. They don't have the tools. If you've never experienced a tool which can actually change, because I said trigger response, right? And so if in between the trigger and response is that subconscious program. And if you've never even been introduced to a tool that can change that, the subconscious program, it won't even make sense to go in that direction. The only tool you have is to react to whatever the response is, how you cognitively deal with it.
Agreed.
Yeah, let's see what Skinny to Swole has to say here. Into a girl from work, attractive girl, met the BF, shorter, overweight, unemployed, weak handshake. She was supporting him. What you mentioned about selection, yeah, she can see.
Read the next comment. Read the next comment, right?
It
It goes with it.
Was she a dominant woman?
What you mentioned about them
Yeah.
selecting weak men so they don't feel challenged really resonated with him.
They don't feel unsafe.
Yep.
They think men are a threat. But I want a man. Let's find a man who I'm powerful enough to protect myself from him.
Yeah, she
They'll
found
go
a
for that.
simp.
Yeah. And probably not going to last. It's probably not a super happy relationship because she's not getting the guy she really wants. She's getting the guy she feels safe with.
And him too.
If
Like,
she fixes her trauma, she's going to get an emotionally healthy guy that has what she wants because
Right.
she won't feel that man is a threat anymore. Right now, she feels that. Go
and he
ahead.
allows her to do that too. It's not just, all her. It's like the man also, if you're in a relationship with someone, you are just as responsible for that relationship as the other person. So it's
100%.
like
That
it's
guy's
like-
probably very, very passive.
yeah. So when
Oh,
when
yeah.
guys say,
Yeah.
"Oh, she's so abusive," or "Oh, he's so abusive," it's like, yeah, but you picked that other person. What does
Yeah.
that say about you that you allow that person to stay in your life even after you learn those traits? If you've
You
gone
picked
on
them
three
and you
dates
stayed with them. And then you
Right.
put all the blame on him and none of it
Right.
on you. And it's like no one held a gun to your head.
Right. A person who's healthy, once they see those unhealthy behaviors in someone else, leaves that person or deals with it. Like, they don't tolerate that.
Yeah.
And that's what we talk about. I would talk about the chemical reaction, right? The unstable, system. It's like a securely attached person and an anxious attached person, they will be in a relationship so long until the securely attached person figures out that the other person isn't secure, and then they leave.
Yeah.
So it's inherently unstable, but if it's so it has to be stable, or unstable to stay together. Typically, stable and unstable don't really. It's unstable.
Our society with a quarter, I think it's a quarter or 20% of kids being raised by single moms, and then about a 45% divorce rate or whatever it is on top of that. And then bad marriages on top of that. The majority of, because of that, children being raised in those environments, you're looking at 80% of people who don't have a secure attachment style, who have one of the messed up attachment styles.
Right.
And so, yeah.
Reading Nigel's comment. What does it mean when you don't have significant trauma but still feel fear
of failure? Well, that is a negative subconscious program. You don't have to have severe trauma to have bad subconscious programs. Right. Everyone has some, and I would say that is subconscious trauma. It's just like, okay, for the most part, my life is good. I don't, you may be saying I don't struggle with massive anxiety or depression, but fear of failure really messes me up. Well, that's trauma. You just have a lot less than 99.99% of people born into this world. We're not born into these perfect environments where your mom's perfect, your dad's perfect. They have all the resources they need. Almost no one gets born into that environment. So everyone has a little subconscious trauma, subconscious programs not serving them. There's one right there. You don't have to be massively messed up to have trauma. Everyone has at least a little. Yeah.
A better term is probably maladaptive program rather than just trauma.
Maladaptive programs. But that fear of failure is tied to pain. The pain is trauma.
Yep.
How do you feel when you fail? If you fail, Nigel, how do you feel? You probably feel like crap. That painful feeling is in your subconscious. It's getting triggered, that's trauma. It may be mild trauma compared to other stuff out there, but that's what it is. So I would call it trauma because there's pain there.
And even if you don't know, that's the thing. You're saying you don't have significant trauma. You're assuming that you can't remember anything which would have triggered that, but your subconscious mind probably
remembers it all.
When we're working with clients, we do regression to cause. How many times have we had a client say, "Wow, I haven't thought about that in so long. I forgot about that."
But it's still ruling their life day to day.
But then we ramp up the feeling. We tell them to feel it in their body, and we tell them to ramp this feeling up, and they go right back there.
And so then their fear of failure is gone, or whatever else it was.
Right after you reprogram it, yeah.
Yeah, so you don't even remember the original trauma, but it is still governing your life and your behavior with fear of failure or whatever else. So
this is super key what Skinny 2 Swole is saying here. He says it almost hurt my inner game because here I couldn't outcompete someone that he's basically better than in every metric. So number one, you're not competing with that person. You may think you're competing with that girl. And I would beg to differ that your inner game was hurt. Your inner game is your inner game. It's all that subconscious programs running.
That's
so
the type of toxic
nothing,
shame.
You might get your feelings hurt because you're looking at this guy going, crap, I'm better than him. Well, you may be 100% better than this fella or have a lot less toxicity or trauma, but this guy's also a hurting unit. So what you need to do is work on that inner game, knowing once your inner game is solid, nobody can affect that inner game. If nobody's affecting your subconscious routines now without you going into your subconscious and removing trauma and reprogramming them, they're not doing it by themselves. So your inner game is solid, whether it's toxic solid or solid good or solid adaptive or maladaptive. You know, we got to keep doing that with what Jordan's talking about. Your game is your game. Change your inner game so it's solid. All of a sudden, you are likely not going to be attracted to that person you thought you were attracted to. Now, there might be an initial physical attraction. I get that. 100% there with on it. But in the long game, you may not be emotionally attracted.
Yeah, how it feels for me, because listen, I've gone from a very low place, like Gamma Girl, couldn't get a date, or I get dates. Like in college, I get dates. I get like 30 dates in a year, but maybe 2 second dates. I mean, just like I would turn them off during the date, right? You know, so I've been on this side of massive insecurity, massive toxic shame, but I'm also on the side now of a lot of success. And if a girl pulls toxic stuff, I can immediately disengage without any hangups internally. Yep. And I'll just tell you what it looks like is you're in abundance. You realize it's just a matter of time before you find a good one. It's, you know, and if any particular girl starts demonstrating she's not a match for you through her behavior, you can make a judgment call. You can say, okay, is she doing some things that is small enough where maybe I just assert myself and then she's like, oh, I'm sorry, you know, and then, you know, corrects it. Cool, you know, try a little harder. Or if it's just like, yeah, here's some deal breakers here. You can immediately disengage and it's just no problem. It's just, yeah, she wasn't for me.
And you won't feel bad.
Yeah.
Just
I don't feel like I owe them anything. I don't feel like they owe me anything. And listen, there's, you know, like I said, there's an emotionally healthy girl that I'm, you know, dating now, although right now she's in Mexico. She, you know, watch my dog, but, who I try to bring to Costa Rica. And anyways, that's a nightmare, but, but listen, it's like, you just feel good around certain people and you're like, I like this. Let's keep going. You know, that's basically what it is. And listen, if it doesn't work out with this girl, every chance, maybe it will, maybe it won't. We'll see. I'm okay either way. And that's how I really feel deep down. And I've had like very attractive girls and, you know, that I, you know, had a date with or whatever. And then they start pulling some, like, I'll tell you an example. One girl, very, very attractive girl. And we had a great first date. And on the, we're planning the second date. I'm like, let's go here, etc. And she's like, yeah, I'm free Tuesday. Okay, let's go here. We set up the date and everything. And it was looking great. And then on the day of, she says, oh, I have class. And and she said something like, and if you don't like that, then I'm not the girl for you. And I'm thinking, well, listen, she told me she's free Tuesday. You don't say you're free when you actually have class. Class didn't come up last moment. And then having a snotty answer like that, and knowing that I did nothing to instigate that. Very promising first date. But honestly, I just immediately dropped her. I'm like, I don't care. I just don't care. So when you're emotionally healthy, people pull stuff like, I wasn't angry at her either.
So
like,
Ryan,
not for me.
That was a test.
And then that
was a test.
Care.
Yeah, she met you, went on a date, is probably a bit insecure herself, figured out that you were a pretty strong guy, and was going to try a stab at manipulating you to see if you'd fall for it. You didn't fall for it. So now she's gone.
And honestly, that's a test that is so blatant. I don't want to deal with that because I know
that's
there's
it,
more
100%.
of that.
And she knew that. She knew that. That was the way to take power and get rid of you without you getting rid of her.
Yeah.
She thought.
The girl I'm dating now gives me tests, but they're much smaller. And when I hold frame, she kind of immediately falls back into the frame.
That's it.
And honestly, her test, that test that girl gave me, I just told you about. Listen, I'm testing her too. And she exhibited a lot of unacceptable toxicity right there. Intentionally setting me up on a date where she had a class that night or lying about having a class. I'm like, that's just not acceptable behavior for me. I don't care. This girl I'm dating now does little tests, but nothing like that. And so right off the bat, I'm just like, no, this is crazy. This girl.
So her little tests, tests now are trying to figure out where she fits in your frame.
Yeah. And I'm cool with it.
That's natural.
And listen, you're never going to find a perfect woman who never tests you to some degree.
I think
they're
that's
all
human
going to test
banter.
you to some degree. But
Ryan or Jordan talked about that playfulness, right? He talked about that emotional playfulness. I think that little stuff is that emotional banter where it's fun and you figure out how to have a relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Good stuff. Yeah.
And I'll say,
so we're still dating.
I'll speak on that a little bit.
Out to Costa Rica in a month, and it's gonna be great.
And
then I go back to Mexico. It's all good.
One of the criticisms that some people will maybe lobby against dating coaches, like, well, that's just the women that you're talking to, and there's that's sort of an oversimplification. That can be true, but it's also sometimes not true. And I think the difference is, look at it again. I go back to the models. What's your premise? What's your model? If you look at it from a subconscious model, there's no contradiction there. It's like the women you're talking to. If you look at what are the similarities between people who have subconscious trauma and people who don't, that I think you will always get to the right behavior. The way you treat certain people and how you're successful in those relationships is based on what's in their subconscious. And so there's an element of truth, I think, to all of these dating coaches. Because if you've experienced it as a dating coach, if one thing you do with a girl works, but it doesn't work with a different girl, why is that the case? And I think typically it's not because it's wrong, it's because your model is wrong. The right model is the subconscious trauma model. That's, maybe I'm getting too advanced, but that's the way I think about it. It's like, well, they're both, it's like, well, not all women are like that. Well, it's like, you're right, but the other person's also right. So let's get to boil it down to, as Patrice O'Neill says, what it is. And I think that what it is the subconscious trauma model. Yeah, there's interplay between different elements, but your subconscious by far is most important. So, Nigel, you're talking about in audio, your thoughts wander. That happens all the time to different people. Just keep
pretty
going.
natural.
Pretty natural. It happens all
I would
the
also
time.
say, make sure your environment. So, Nigel, make sure your environment is distraction free and you're in a comfortable spot. And I like my head supported somewhere. So if you're uncomfortable, if there are distractions around you, make sure you got your headphones on somewhere you're physically comfortable and not going to be disturbed. and then see how that works. Like set up your environment so that you can relax.
Yeah, get
And
one of those CIA water tanks where the temperature's regulated and you're floating in the pool. That'd
You
be
can do
good.
that if you want.
Thermobaric chamber or whatever, hyperbaric chamber, hypo. I don't.
No pressure, just
Yeah.
floating water that's the perfect body temperature.
Noise.
No sensation.
But yeah, be in a private location where you're comfortable. That's
kidding
what I
about
always
that.
tell my clients is you don't want to be worried about being distracted. Just really concentrate on setting up the environment. Because then when you focus on setting up the environment, your mind will already be in the framework of, okay, I am going to relax because I've set up my environment for this. So you're already kind of in that mindset going into it. When you've arranged your external world, your sort of internal world will begin to align with that activity. If that makes sense.
Skinny Two Swole's got it. Sense deprivation chamber.
Yeah, sensory deprivation.
I've never done that.
Yeah.
I'd be interested. To
It's
try
called like
that.
hyperbaric or something like
That's
that.
pressurization. Yeah.
Oh, maybe. Okay. Yeah. So I think that'll about cover it for today. A good deep dive. Do you guys have any final thoughts on, people's subconscious trauma and other aspects of their upbringing? It affects what they do in relationships. It affects who they're attracted to. It affects all sorts of things. You do want to know how to navigate it from a game perspective. This girl's doing this, I'm going to react this way. And women need to understand game too. Women, ladies, if you do not understand men, that is going to work to your detriment. So get out there and study and get that conscious knowledge, but also knowledge of the subconscious. Fix your own subconscious. Just understanding isn't enough. You actually got to go in and fix your subconscious too. It'll have a massive impact and a massive increase in quality. If you're complaining about your dating life, you're like, dating sucks and I can't find a guy, the number one thing you got to work on is yourself, above all, your subconscious, 100%. Do you guys have anything to add?
Yeah,
I do. Go ahead, Jordan. Go ahead.
I have two other things I thought of to help Nigel. So the first is there's the meditation technique. If you've ever done meditation, there's the whole concept of meditation is observation over engagement. You picture yourself on the side of a highway, and all the cars going past are all of your thoughts, and you're watching them, but you're not chasing after them. So if your mind starts to wander, just notice it, kind of watch it, and you'll find that just in noticing it, it kind of lets go. The other thing, as I'll say, is that if your mind starts wandering, it's very possible that that's actually a resistance. It's a defense mechanism. Because if you're going into the session trying to focus on a painful thing, and your mind really doesn't want to look at that thing, that might just be a reaction to your brain's trying. It's like it's trying to protect yourself. It's like I've had that happen before, where it's like I feel so numb going into a session because I really don't want to feel that shitty feeling that I want to feel. So maybe if that's happening, just ask yourself, why is my mind going this way? Is the fact that you're having all these wandering thoughts a symptom of the problem you're trying to actually tackle, because your brain is trying to not look at those things, so it's putting all of these thoughts in your mind. So use all that, hopefully, and then come back and you can ask us more questions later. Hope that helps.
Yeah. Also,
So
Nigel, go ahead, Tim.
To take this whole thing that we're talking about to the 50,000 foot level, you need to have a solid, loving relationship with every aspect of yourself. If you do not have that, you will struggle in every relationship you have in your whole life, because we're human beings. I mean, life is hard enough already. And for us to have to navigate this life with a lot of subconscious trauma is disastrous. So number one, have a great relationship with yourself. And I don't mean sitting on the couch and going, dang it, I love myself. Not that. I'm talking about you could sit there and nobody would bother you and you'd feel fulfilled. You don't need external validation. You're 100% inside yourself, solid. You're secure. You deserve what you get. you belong to whatever yourself and whatever else you want to belong to. With those things rigged up internally, that is your game. Your game plays well in the world for you when you have that solid game.
And that changes everything. And we have
100%.
resources, free resources on MindChrysalis, the link right there. Go there, join. You got resources that are going to help you get there. Deep down, self-belief, self-love, etc. Resource right there. Go there and join if you haven't already. Nigel, everyone else, powerful stuff. That is our show for today. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys have more awareness now. It's not just game. It's not just instinct. You got to understand subconscious programs. Attachment styles is all about what's in the subconscious. Very, very, very powerful effect on intersexual dynamics. It is the iceberg, the underwater portion people don't see. Learn it and then use it to your advantage and heal yourself as well. That's our show. You can do it. You guys have more power than you know, and ladies too. And thank you for watching. You have more power than you know.
Do 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 do.